Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and today I'm going to talk about the 1983 Star Wars Return of the Jedi action figure for General Madine. Yeah, I know, I suspect that this may not be the most watched video I ever make, but that's alright. My General Madine figure meant more to me than I suspect he meant to most kids. He has a little bit of a story, and YouTube gives me a place to tell it. So even if no one listens, here you go. I was definitely a huge fan of Star Wars as a kid. I loved most of the figures that Kenner released for the first Star Wars movie and The Empire Strikes Back. However, even early on, there were a few figures like Power Droid and FX7 that weren't really very exciting to me. I'm sure most kids who played with Star Wars figures felt like some of the figures just weren't all that cool. Not every figure can be Han Solo or Boba Fett, you know? One of the figures from Return of the Jedi that probably wasn't at the top of most people's favorite figures list was General Madine. I bet some people might have preferred a figure of a Y-Wing pilot or the Weequay Skiff Master. Maybe some would have wished that they'd made a Leia in her metal bikini, or the outfit that she wore in the Ewok village instead of General Madine. Personally, I would have liked it if they had finally made a figure for Wedge Antilles. They could have just reused the X-Wing Luke with a new head that had a removable helmet. That would have been awesome. I mean, come on, Wedge was in all 3 movies, with dialogue. But I digress. General Madine had a relatively small role in Return of the Jedi, and his so-called weapon seemed to be a pointer that you might find someone using during a business presentation. But this figure did stand out to me, and I probably liked him more than most other kids did. The reason that I was so excited about getting him wasn't 100% about the figure itself, but the way that he ended up in my collection. He was the very first figure I found from Return of the Jedi. Way back before the internet, back in the early 1980s, the action figure card back was the only way that I could find out what Star Wars figures were available or going to be available in stores. And I still have his card back after all these years. Finding a new figure, no matter who, meant that I could look at the card back and see who else was coming. I realized that for the most part, this might not mean much, but for me, having a figure from Return of the Jedi was a very big deal at the time. If I had found a Biker Scout action figure first, General Madine most likely wouldn't have had the same meaning to me, but timing was everything in this situation, and it was General Madine who ushered in that first wave of figures for a brand new Star Wars movie. So despite his small role in the movie, he played a big role in my personal Star Wars history. It wasn't just the card back either, but having a brand new figure from a Star Wars movie that I hadn't seen yet was extremely exciting. As a result, I suspect my General Madine figure saw a lot more action than many of the other identical Madine figures that made their way into the hands of other kids in the 1980s. Yeah, maybe there's nothing particularly cool about this guy in the movie, but since I hadn't seen the movie yet, he was full of potential. In my mind, he could have been a new character as cool as Lando Calrissian or as wise as Obi-Wan Kenobi. There was no telling. Plus, at the time, I didn't know his weapon was a pointer for a meeting. At that point, it could have been a new kind of lightsaber. I didn't know. I think Kenner did a good job of making his uniform look nice, even if they did get the color of the collar wrong. Maybe the head sculpt and the paint job could have been a little bit better to be more movie accurate. And yeah, his face didn't look exactly like the actor who played him, but I suspect not many kids cared very much about that. Plus, it was close enough for a guy who was only one small step above being a background character. Even giving him a gun might have made him a little bit cooler, but he did carry that pointer in the movie, so I understand why they gave him that accessory. Despite the fact that several figures from the first 2 movies came with guns, even though the characters were never seen holding them in the movies. Regardless of any of that, I liked this figure when it first came out in 1983. By the time I saw the movie, I had already given my General Madine his own personality and backstory that was way cooler to me than what I saw in the movie. So I stuck with the character that I was expecting to see in Return of the Jedi rather than the character I did see in Return of the Jedi whenever I would get him out and play with him. I realize that now it's difficult to imagine knowing nothing about Return of the Jedi, but if you could see General Madine through the eyes of a kid who is getting his first glimpse of the new offerings from a brand new Star Wars movie, you might like him a little bit more too. With that said, I'm curious about your experiences with General Madine as a kid. Did you have this action figure back in the days that you played with your Star Wars figures? If so, what did you think of him back then? What do you think of him now? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a thumbs up and share it on social media. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell so you'll be notified when I post new videos. And one last thing, if you're a fan of toys, you should know about Toylanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit toylanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.